Okay, I'm going to call to order the meeting. This is our December 6th TPA Executive Committee meeting. Palm Beach TPA is conducting this meeting both in person and virtually using the Zoom webinar. Instruction to join the virtual meeting as well as contact information for assistance are provided in the published meeting agenda. Staff, would you please give us a roll call?
Yes, sir. So to remind everybody, the button on the base needs to be turned on. When it's red, it means you're on. Joel Flores,
Present.
Maria Marino,
Here.
Michael Napoleon,
Here.
Chelsea Reed,
Here.
Robert Weinroth.
I am here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have a physical quorum, so we're going to move on now to modifications to the agenda. I'm going to suggest, since we have 3 candidates that would like to be heard by us, rather than having them at the end of the meeting, I'd like to move them to the front of the meeting, and we can have a discussion as far as time limits on that. So I'm going to make that modification to the agenda, and then I'm going to look for a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion by Mayor Flores, second by Commissioner Marino. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor, all opposed, that's approved 5-0. All right. So let's have a discussion quickly about how we're going to handle the applications. We have 3 applicants today. One of them, it's my understanding, is just an applicant for interim. If I'm incorrect, I'll allow the candidate to correct me. And 2 of them would be for permanent position with us. The applicants, as we discussed last time, were a former employee, Valerie Nielsen, an employee of the St. Lucie TPO, Peter Buchwald, and then, as I said, Andrew Yerlich. I'm sorry if I destroy that last name. Euler, sorry, who is currently the TPA Deputy Director, and it's my understanding that he's seeking only interim appointment, but again, he can clarify that. My thought is to give each about 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes.
5.
Excuse me, 5? Okay. I see a consensus on 5. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll invite each of the 3 to come up, and I'm going to go in the order that they are on the agenda, with Mr. Buchwald first, Ms. Nielsen second, and Mr. Euler third. I'm going to ask you to make a presentation to us as long as you would like, up to 5 minutes, and then we will perhaps ask you some questions, clarifications. Mr. Buchwald, thank you for coming today. And we appreciate your interest in this position, and certainly are eager to hear what you bring to the table.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to share my tremendous interest in being the next executive director of the Palm Beach TPA, and how my experience, skills, abilities, and local knowledge will enable me to step in immediately at the start and further the progressive evolution of the organization commenced by this board, Nick, and the rest of the TPA team. With a civil engineering degree and a certification from the American Institute of Certified Planners, I've enjoyed more than 13 years of experience as an executive director of an MPO. In fact, I'm the longest tenured MPO director in the state of Florida, while living in Palm Beach County for more than a decade. I'm fortunate to have a comprehensive background with more than 30 years of planning, engineering, and environmental experience in both the private and public sectors, more than 20 years of which have been in management and executive positions. I will provide examples to the committee of the planning and implementation of innovative mobility plans, programs, and projects, and of my ability to develop partnerships and build relationships at the local, regional, state, and federal levels. I will explain how I will understand the individual 21 board members' needs and priorities and work to build consensus to align those needs and priorities with those of the TPA while reaching out to the public and business community, ensuring effective communication and coordination among all stakeholders while building understanding and consensus. I will show how I will continue to implement the vision and mission of the TPA and the plans of the TPA, including the strategic plan, the long-range plan, the 561 plan, and the Vision Zero action plan. I will show how I will work with Mr. Abrams and the South Florida RTA to advance the Tri-Rail Coastal Link and work with the 39 local jurisdictions and the county to implement the local initiatives program and renew the infrastructure surtax, support development such as the PGA Village, the West Palm Beach Transit Village, and address the impacts of climate change through the Southeast Florida Climate Compact. I will demonstrate the successful development and administration of the independent organization budget, adhering to all state and federal rules, never receiving a corrective action or audit finding in any of the federal or state certification reviews in my 13+ years. But no less important to me is the ability to inspire and mentor staff, nurture their improvement, and implement the needed programs, services, and technologies to achieve the highest levels of organizational performance and staff satisfaction. So I look forward to your questions and discussion this morning of why I should be the next executive director of the TPA.
Thank you, Mr. Buchwald. I'm going to open to questions from the committee.
Mr. Buchwald, I noticed you put FDOT references on your, can you give us, can you elaborate a little bit more on that and your workings with the FDOT?
I think the references that I've provided demonstrate my ability to develop partnerships and relationships at both the state and federal levels. So the District 4 Secretary Jerry O'Reilly, Assistant Director of Transportation Development Steve Braun, also with Stacy Blizzard from the Federal Highway Administration, and Allison Stetner with the Office of Policy Planning up in central office. So I've been able to develop these relationships and leverage these relationships to be able to implement the vision of the St. Lucie TPO.
And does your agency know you're looking for another job?
No, not at this time.
Well, they do now. And you said you live in Palm Beach County?
Yes, I do. I live in Jupiter.
Thank you very much.
If we elect to recommend an interim executive director while doing a national search, you would not be interested in interim, or only the executive director spot?
Mr. Chair. Councilman Napoleon, I have a terrific position now.
Right.
I'm very comfortable. I think I've demonstrated my performance at the St. Lucie TPO. So I don't think there's a need for this committee or the board to spend the $25,000 to $30,000 for a nationwide search. You have someone here who's been working for 13+ years, knows very well, has great relations with the state and local level, and in terms of District 4, has the local knowledge after living here in Palm Beach County for more than 10 years. So I think I'd be ready to step in right away upon should the committee and board desire to hire me. Now, we brought up the question of, does my board know? We had a board meeting last Wednesday, so our next board meeting would not be until February. So I would, spend if I should be chosen, I would spend some time notifying them of my intent to assume this position, and then work with them to build some type of transition period before assuming this role here. Thanks.
Absolutely.
We do cards or no cards?
I got two questions. First, can you elaborate a little bit about why you want to leave your organization to come here? And second of all, you don't think it's prudent that this board should go out and do an executive search?
Can you repeat the second question, please, Mayor?
You mentioned that you don't think that we should go out and do an executive search. So you don't think it's prudent of this board to go out and try to get the best talent?
Well, to answer your first question, Mayor, why do I want this position? As of being satisfied with the St. Lucie TPO, because to be able to do what I do now on a larger scale with the resources and tools that would be available to me is very exciting. And also to be able to do it in Paradise, where I live, is exciting to me. What an example of something, it's implementing the 561 plan, those transit corridors where you're trying to upgrade the transit, implementing rail. Right now in St. Lucie County, we just don't have the size, the population right now to be able to implement some of those improvements on transit basis. So it's very exciting to do that. In terms of, this is at the committee's discretion and the board's discretion in terms of what is prudent for you to fill the next position. I'm just saying, I believe I have the skills, abilities, and experience and the local knowledge to step right in, where there won't be any time where somebody from outside the state, outside the area, would have to learn, what are the needs and priorities of Palm Beach County.
Let's do a hypothetical.
Sure.
So let's just say, so I'm in Palm Beach Gardens, and let's just say there you can choose which one you want, a county road or a state road in Palm Beach Gardens that I see needs adjustment. How would you recommend I go forward to collaborate with the county or the state for a road that's in my municipality?
Okay, so Vice Mayor Reed, so to clarify your question, is it a county or state? You want me to give examples of both?
You can choose. I'll take both if you have time.
Sure, you bet. So we want to preserve as much as our federal funding we can for our local roads. That's a county. Those are roads off the state system. Because the state system has state funding, and the state funding makes up 75%, if not more, of additional revenues. So we'd work through the TPO with the county and the county to ensure the roadway gets widened, but more importantly, make sure that your needs and priorities are in the plan. I noticed in the 561 plan, the North County could use some additional of the east-west connections, because it's lacking when you go north of Okeechobee. You could include North Lake Boulevard. You want to connect Avenir to the rest to US 1 and 95. You want to connect in terms of transit. You also want to connect PGA Boulevard, your transit village that Dan Catafumo is proposing should be connected also all along PGA Boulevard, as well as Donald Ross and Blue Huron, and also Indian Town Road. So those could be considered to be added to the 561 plans. That's also how it would help you. So now on the state level, we work very closely with District 4 to ensure that their priorities and our priorities align, get an understanding of what their needs are using state funding, while also applying some of our state funding. The other thing I would suggest for Palm Beach County for Palm Beach Gardens is to consider use of Transportation Regional Incentive Program funding, TRIP funding. That's state funding that can be used off the state system, but requires a local match. But what we've done in St. Lucie is we've used our federal funding as the match for the state funding. So you're able to fund your county, the road that's within your city using state funding, but also a federal match as is allowed by TRIP funding.
And you briefly mentioned widening. Is that your idea of planning for infrastructure with roads?
No. When I said widening, when I said the on those corridors, I meant including those transits additions to the corridors, increasing the transit availability along all of those corridors. Now, I mean, we're at the point when especially when you're addressing climate change and the impacts from climate change, we need to continue to get people out of their cars by providing them more mobility options, but they have to be able to have options that are just as convenient as their automobile. So that's why I would work to ensure that we're providing all those mobility options. Plus, we hear the younger generations, they don't necessarily own a car or want to drive as much, along with our senior populations, being able to give them the options to be able to move around. So I don't mean widening. Widening is, in multimodal, complete streets that include transit, bicycle, and pedestrian facilities.
Thank you.
Final question. Tell me about your relationship between the TPO and the county. As you know, I'm a county commissioner, and I'm certainly very sensitive to that relationship between the two entities. How have you handled that in St. Lucie?
Well, I've had 3 county administrators during my tenure, including Faye Outlaw, who was used to work for Ms. Baker as well, and she now is the city manager for West Palm Beach. I've had great relationships with the county, and I'll give you 3 recent examples of those relationships. Right now, the city of Port St. Lucie experiencing the same type of challenge that Palm Beach Gardens and the county is with regards to instituting a mobility fee. And I was invited to participate in that discussion, as well as I met separately with the county administrator and the city manager of Port St. Lucie to try and find some middle ground in terms of that. And also we worked with the county and the city of Port St. Lucie directly in terms of the earmarks. Remember, we thought that we'd have some earmarks coming through with the new infrastructure bill. So I worked directly with them and also with Congressman Mast to have those earmarks put into the bill. But of course, they weren't in the final version. And finally, what we do is when we develop our long-range plan, we do have it's called a roundtable. So we gather the city managers and the county administrator together in one room, and we work through and discuss their priorities and how we can build consensus and blend those priorities into the overall long-range plan.
Thank you, Mr. Buckwell. We appreciate again you making the trip here. If there's, I'll give you 1 minute to sum up and then.
Yes,
we're
if
gonna
I
move
just
on
may,
to-
another example of my relationship with the Florida Department. Can I pass this out?
Sure. You
So
of course
we-
realize these are public record now.
Yes, okay, thank you. It's from the Florida Department of Transportation. We endorsed the draft tentative work program, as you do, on this last go round, and we had two conditions on it. One, that a multi-use path be added to a resurfacing project on US 1 in the northern part of the county. We also had the condition that we replace local funding on one project, which is a resurfacing of Orange Avenue in Fort Pierce, so that the city of Fort Pierce didn't have to pay for, they wanted pedestrian lighting and enhanced crosswalks, decorative crosswalks. So that's an example of where we're able to help out a local jurisdiction that may not have the funding for the local funding to have a greater project, more complete project. And we were able to help them out by applying $177,000 of our funding towards that project. And both of those conditions were accepted. So that confirms the partnership that we enjoy with the Florida Department of Transportation. So again, thank you for the opportunity to meet with you today here and discuss my ability to be able to be the next Palm Beach TPA Executive Director. I believe the TPA needs an effective consensus builder and leader who is consistent, reliable, and steady, and I am that person. If I've not convinced you today, we talked about the references, please contact them for confirmation. Again, I greatly appreciate it being provided this opportunity to have spent some time with you today and demonstrate what I can do for the TPA. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buckwell. We appreciate it. Okay, Ms. Nielsen. Again, we'll give you about 5 minutes to make an opening presentation, some questions, and then a minute or so to tie it up at the end. Please begin as you are ready.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being here today, for your time. As you know, I've been with the TPA for over 6.5 years, and it's been an agency that I've really enjoyed working for, that I love, that we are part of creating the mission and the vision, a vision of a safe, efficient, and connected multimodal transportation system, which is, I think, such an exciting time right now with the infrastructure bill, with everything going on in our county and in Florida, in our country. It's that vision, carrying that forward. The new infrastructure bill, its priorities are a safe, efficient, equitable, and climate resilient system, promoting more transit, promoting more frequent, efficient transit. And that's really the 561 plan that we created. I was the lead in creating those corridors for the multimodal corridors, and Nick came up with the awesome name of the 561 plan because it's 5 north-south, 6 east-west, and 1 connected system. And now is the time to carry that forward. Now is the time to bring everyone together. I've been in meetings that in my current position at the city of West Palm Beach with economic development councils and the BDB. And I'm talking about the 561 plan because the cities are saying, we need affordable housing. We have all these people moving here. We have all these jobs, but how are we moving people together? Where's the vision for transportation? Who is leading that conversation? And I have to bring up the 561 plan and say that that's the TPA. The TPA is carrying that forward. Now is the time to go after, to do a campaign, to carry that vision forward and to line up for the November 24 ballot and see if we're ready for that, if we're ready to follow the lead of the other urban areas in Florida and around the country. So I really feel like this is, I know I left, I went to Alaska where I was born, and that it didn't work out, but this is an agency that I love. It's a staff that I love. It's a board that I love. I have relationships with and friendships with many people here in this county. I'm part of leadership Palm Beach County. And, I wish that, again, I wish that our director wouldn't leave. He's an amazing director, and it's been an amazing team working here and an agency that I love. So I'm excited about the future of Palm Beach County. I'm excited about this agency, and I hope that I can be a part of that, of carrying the vision and the policies that we've created forward.
Thank you very much. Questions? Questions?
I'll ask you the same question. Similar to Mr. Buckwald, you also would like to be the permanent executive director. If the TPA decides to appoint an interim and do a national search, are you still interested in coming on board as the interim, knowing you'd be just a candidate for the permanent position?
Yes.
I too will ask a similar question and bring in a little bit of what our chair, Mayor Weinroth, brought in as well, which is, so if, again, as a municipality collaborating with the county
Mhm.
and or collaborating with the state, there are sensitivities. Can you tell me a little bit about how you would approach those sort of things and funding?
Sure. I think that I really want to see the cities and the county work collaboratively together. And that's the role of the TPA, to lead that conversation, to bring all of us together. I think that looking at examples of what others, our peers, are doing around the state or other counties, and trying to approach the conversation in a way that it's a win-win. Obviously, having a polarized conversation, all or nothing, doesn't help anyone. So I think that there's still opportunity for that. I know that there is a lot of tension and discussion happening with the mobility fees, the road impact fee. I still think that we can move together and find a way, a path forward to work collaboratively together on that. The 561 plan, it does include roadways as well, roadway projects, but the multimodal corridors were developed and established based on current and future trends of housing and jobs. So in terms of, do we need additional corridors of very frequent, reliable, and premium transit in other areas? We established that network based on those current and future population and job densities. So that doesn't mean that there won't be other first last mile connections or other transit service in those other areas. This is just where we need to focus on first before going to those other areas. We need to get the basic system in line now. And again, it's such an exciting time with the infrastructure bill, and there's a bunch of money coming down the pipeline, and we need to align ourselves for that. So we're really in the perfect timing. I think it's going to be the best chapter yet for the TPA and for our county.
Thank you.
Mayor Flores. Okay, elephant in the room. Your job history is getting a little bit short. You left here, went to Alaska, you've accepted another position in West Palm Beach. Now you're ready to jump to this position. We need continuity. We need to have someone who's going to stay put and we can build on. What kind of, I mean, obviously you're not going to guarantee us that you're not going to look beyond this role. What can you do to satisfy us that this is where you're committed to, if this is the role that is offered to you?
I honestly feel like my heart is this agency, and I love this agency. I've been a part of creating it, and my trip to Alaska was something that I learned a lot from. It was a really hard experience, and I know that Palm Beach County is now home. I've been here now here in Palm Beach County. I moved in almost 11 years ago down here to South Florida, and I've been working in both of my roles at the last 6.5 years here at the TPA in District 4, but also with District 6, and really have strong relationships here in South Florida and in the whole state. So I'm committed to being here if I have the opportunity to work for the TPA again, and I'm really excited, and I feel like it's my passion that I want to carry forward.
Thank you. We have the benefit of a copy of your quarterly performance reviews from April and from June. And can I ask our executive director, what is the threes and twos and ones? What is the maximum? What's the minimum on the ratings?
As indicated on the review form, the minimum is a 0 and indicates unacceptable performance, and a maximum is 3 and indicates excellent performance.
Thank you. All right. In reviewing your performance, the most recent April 19th, I'm pleased to see that most of the scores were 3, which according to the executive director on maximum. I'm kind of amused by the comment on both your April and June evaluation that you should leave on time, that your late evening departures don't model a healthy work-life balance. You want to talk to that?
I guess that goes, yes, that was something that I need to work on and that my boss continually remind me of, but I think that goes back to my passion for this agency and wanting to make sure no balls drop, wanting to make sure that we do have we actually had a seminar, a lunch and learn from the director of Palm Beach County Libraries on inbox zero. And since that, I've been committed to that commitment of 0 emails in my inbox that I haven't read. So it's an organizational structure, but really, I think it just goes back to really not wanting to answer all the emails, wanting to follow up with all the municipalities that reach out to us for resources, wanting to move our vision forward and be that resource for everyone. So it is something that I'm doing better at and that I need to work on, but I think it goes to show my passion and my commitment to this agency of doing a good job.
Do you have trouble delegating?
I think that I've been doing better at that. I think especially in the last year, my team grew in the last, and I was now empowering more of our staff to lead some of the things that I was doing. I previously, when we were shorter staffed, I think wearing more hats, leading more transit, complete streets, ped bike, even outreach and project management, consultant management, a lot of those things that as our staff grew, I was able to delegate and empower more of our staff to take more on leadership roles and represent us at different in different capacities. So I would say that I'm okay with that now.
How much did you get involved in planning for the documentation that's prepared for the board meetings as in your role as a deputy director?
I'm sorry, which meetings?
Well, for the board meetings,
Oh.
for the approval,
I would,
long-term plans.
sure, I was the point person. Both Andrew and I reviewed, but and Margie prepared the documentation. I was the point person to review, to do the director's report for the board meetings. Really the point person for that agenda and reviewing the presentations and everything. But it was a collaborative effort with our admin team.
And just to clarify your answer to Councilman Napoleon, you would be willing to accept an interim position and with the potential of not being appointed to the permanent position?
Yes, and I think that it would be, personally, I think it would be what would be best for this agency. I think that we all bring different strengths to the table. I have, as far as I know, have had a great relationship with everyone on staff. And Andrew and I think also make a great team, both when we were both serving as deputies, we both have our strengths. And I think that strengthens the agency even further.
Very good. Thank you. I have no more questions. Mayor Flores.
Hi, Valerie. So I guess I want to address the elephant in the room. At the last executive board meeting, at the last board meeting here, Nick made some comments about how bringing you back, it could affect the culture of the organization. So it also seemed like there might be some conflicts, or maybe I'm reading too much into it, but internally with staff, how would you address both the comments and the perception that there might be issues within the organization by bringing you back to head or be the interim?
Sure. As I said, I'm not aware of any conflicts. I think that I've been part of creating the culture here. We have an amazing culture, but I would meet individually with each staff member and have a conversation on how they're doing, how they're, what are their thoughts, what are their desires for how we can work better, how we can be a stronger team than ever. And if there were any issues or thoughts regarding me, then, address that and talk it out and see how to move forward. But I think that we have a great team and I like everyone on staff. I'm not aware of any issues personally.
No questions?
I have
Yes.
one more question. Assuming we were to allow Nick to be released early from his contract, how soon would you be able to start after the December 16th meeting if the TPA board said to hire you as executive interim? time would you need?
My current employer is on guard for and is every day like I need to know today what you're doing, if you're staying or leaving, if we need to find someone else. So I think I would want to give them a 2-week notice, but maybe they might be like, okay, bye. So I'm not, I just have to, I guess, figure out a path forward.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Nielsen. We appreciate you. Want to make a final summary comment or?
I guess, yeah, just in summary, this is an agency I love. It's a vision that I helped create. It's a team that I love. And I wish I wouldn't have gone to Alaska. I wish things were different. I wish that our director weren't leaving. But I'm excited for the future of our county, for the future of this agency. I'm excited to work with all of you, and I'm energized to carry the vision forward. So in whatever capacity. Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming to present your credentials to us. Okay. It brings us to our third applicant, Andrew Euler. I'm going to have to do better. I know.
If anything else out of this conversation, hopefully you can get that. Yeah. Our previous director also had a hard name to pronounce, so Uren. I mean, they're both sort of
Yeah,
similar.
can we just, before you make your formal presentation, can you clarify, are you looking for just the interim position, or are you looking to be considered for the full-time position?
That's a good question. Thank you. Only the interim, correct. And I'll explain that through my.
Okay, why don't you proceed? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. As you, your question, yes, I would only like to be considered for the interim position. I've been at the TPA going on 4.5, closer to 5 years now. Overall MPO experience been about 7+ years now. The reason why I think I'm confident in this position is with that experience, and then also our current staff. So regardless of where we head today, we have an amazing staff, and our 2 longest serving employees right now are Margarita Pierce, who does our administrative actions, and then also our CFO, who is Matthew Common in the back of the room here. So both of those really keep the lights on. They help us go forward in our smooth day-to-day operations here at the TPA. And then also on top of that, the culture that we've instilled in our full staff through Nick's leadership has really been one where we want people to be the leads, right? So we have positions for lead planners. They're really day-to-day taking the lead on that. And if you ever see you've been to our presentations, but it's not only just for committees, but for all you all, you really don't see me present anymore. And you really don't see Nick ever present to you all. So really all these agenda items are trying to be led by the staff who are overseeing those. So we try to provide good benefits, good pay for them, and a good healthy work culture for them to be able to take the lead on that. And I'm really confident in their ability to see us through this interim process, hopefully with me as an interim, and then having great leaderships with Margie Pierce and Matthew Common, the rest of our staff. So I really think that we could see this throughout the interim process. The reason why I only wanted to go for interim, obviously I only have about 7 years of MPO experience, and Palm Beach County really needs somebody in this position who's really going to guide us forward, be that consensus builder, have all that experience for us, right? There's gonna be a lot of things ahead, a lot of great opportunities in our county for us to accomplish this 561 vision and lead everyone together in the communities. And I'm really not set out for that currently in my lifetime and my work experience to carry out that vision long term. But I do feel confident in my ability to just finish this out for an interim position and then go back to my deputy director of program development position. I think you have 2 great candidates who have more experience than I do here. Peter Buchwald and Valerie Nielsen are both great transportation planners, and I've enjoyed working with both of them. And I have a lot of respect for both of them. But I feel that it would be better to have a process where I'm an interim, and then we also carry out this ongoing application process to see who else is out there who could really champion the 561 and push the TPA vision forward into the future. And that's all I have. Thank you.
You just turned it off.
It off. Got to get these red lights on and off. Okay, we'll go around the table. We'll start with Commissioner Marino.
Andrew, thank you. if you take on the role of interim executive director, we are down one deputy executive director. And so we would actually have two open roles, both of the deputy directors. Do you think that, given the time frame of what the agencies said to us about how long it's going to take to hire someone, do you think that a time span of 10 to 14 weeks, you can carry on that role, the other roles that you carry on now, and still do the job effectively? That was a long-winded question. I'm sorry. Can you do the job effectively in this time period?
Yes, but not for the foreseeable future. So if you were to have me as an interim position, I think our staff could manage that into the new year. But I think when you're getting closer to the half year point of the next fiscal year, or sorry, the next calendar year, that's really, I think, is gonna be a lot of tough sort of long-term being so lean on staff. So I think for the next two or 3 months, definitely. But when we start transitioning into a new fiscal year, so that'd be going into 2023. Right now, we're guided by our Unified Plan and Work Program, our strategic plan, our Vision Zero action plan. So we all already have what we need to do to sort of succeed for that. When we're getting closer to the middle of next year is when we'll probably start needing a lot more resources and guidance from a director.
Well, if we decided today to do this, I mean, if you look from what the companies have said, I mean, it looks like the time frame to hire someone ranges from 7 weeks to 15 weeks. So that would be the time frame that you would serve as an interim executive director, and you would feel comfortable with that.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mayor
Okay.
Flores?
Hey, Andrew. You alluded that the other two individuals are interested in the role, have more experience than you do. My question to you is, if we were to bring in an outsider, sort of, one person has obviously experience in the organization, but the other one doesn't, what would be your sentiments on that? How would you feel bringing in an external person to right the ship in an interim basis while we go out and look for someone?
Sure, meaning that if we have another interim person in the position other than I? Yes, I think it's still, personally, I'd be okay with it. I think we have the ability here as our staff to bring them on board quickly and to get them on the right trajectory. When I said with Margie and Matthew, both of those really those day-to-day admin positions. So I think when it comes to sort of seeing how we set up our processes here financially and administratively, that's all going to be covered pretty well. And really, they're going to be handling that, and possibly me as well, helping with that. Whereas the interim can really start, leading the planning side of things and working with all with you a little bit more. I think it's going to work out well that way. I think the interim's role in this is, and what you won't get with just me is that I can do a lot of the day-to-day and planning tasks with my team, but my outreach to all you all and trying to carry forward all these other things go on top of it, the 561 plan and all these other visioning exercises and all these other presentations to all these committees or to all your communities, that's where I'll be stretched thin, right? So that's where I would not have a lot of ability to manage all that and do a lot of those presentations that we would like to do. So unless our staff's to be able to do those, which we do have, but I wouldn't be able to provide full commitment to you all on a day-to-day basis in that capacity. Whereas that interim would be able to do that, where I help out with everything else that I've already been doing at the TPA.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. All right, so we've got the Unified Work Plan, we've got 561, we've got the LRTP, we've got the TIP, we've got processes. We have so many plans and processes that were developed by Nick with Valerie and your staff, all of the staff here. So it does sound like the next, so when we look at the companies that we might be hiring, it does look like about 90 days to find somebody. So we would have someone, if we did go with this company to help us hire someone, within about 90 days. So in that period of time, all of these plans get to continue. It sounds like the one thing that you're concerned about is, and I don't blame you, is talking to elected officials and working with the committees, right? So can you tell me a little bit more about that? Is it more about the time? Is it a certain skill? I know it's hard to talk to elected officials too. I do it all the time, but we all want to work together for the TPA in this transition period. So that's number one.
Mhm.
And then number two, can you give us a little bit about what this has been like for staff? And you can have an opportunity now as a staff member to speak on behalf of staff going forward. So number one, the bit that would get lost, and if you came on, and then tell us how the staff is feeling in their experience.
Sure, thank you. Those are good questions. Luckily, a lot of the Metropolitan Planning Organization required tasks, Unified Plan and Work Program, Long Range Transportation Plan, Transportation Improvement Program. Those are all ones that all MPOs need to do. I'm over program development, and my experience has been in managing the LRTP and the Transportation Improvement Program. And then those are also two lead positions at our TPA. So they really handle those day to day, and I want them to be able to take that and not have too much oversight from me. But I am also experienced with meeting those deadlines. And so it's a reoccurring process every year for the most part. And the LRTP right now is sort of, we're looking now towards our next one, 2050, and we're working with our region right now on a regional transportation plan. So we're just now drafting that scope. So that's been ongoing by Connor in our office. So he has a good handle on that. So I think when it comes to the LRTP, the TIP, and the UPWP, we're pretty set with that. And I don't think that's gonna be an issue. When it comes to the 561 plan, and some of these other visioning meetings and other communications we're going to have with elected officials and community presentations. Right. So that's where I feel like I would be a little more stretched thin with our current staff to be able to do that. So usually you would have your director go out and do all those, but that plus all the administrative tasks and managing just the workflow of the current staff, that'll be difficult for me to do both of those. Not that I'm not up for doing those. I enjoy doing those presentations as well. And I've signed up for a few of those to do the communities as well. But it's just the day-to-day conversations with elected officials and managing all that can be cumbersome. Yeah. And then when it comes to your second question about sort of how our staff's been dealing with this transition, it was a shock to hear that Nick was leaving. Obviously, it was difficult to hear for all of our staff. And we wish the best of luck in his future. I've learned a lot from Nick, and he's been my, one of my best role models, leader for me, both personally and professionally. But when it comes to this transition, I think, it's been difficult at times. I think, we hear more rumors than anything as leadership staff, but we spoke with our staff and I've told them what I've told you today about we're confident in their abilities and we want them to lead those things, and that's our expectation for them. And I think they've really risen to that challenge, and I think a lot of them really appreciate being able to take that lead even more. And they're all vital roles for us. So I think from managing their own tasks and how they feel and they fit in the organization, I think they feel confident in where they're at. And we told them that even though this is a transition of the agency, we believe in all of them. And I think they all believe in the organization. I think it's for the interim position, it seems like I guess I'll speak on my own personal belief of the staff is they would most likely want to carry out the process, just like I'm telling you today, where they would want me to serve as interim, and then they look for the best candidate for the position. I think they want to ensure a good process that moves forward, and they want to see what's out there.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Andrew.
Councilman Napoleon.
Let me start by saying that I think all of us acknowledge what a great staff we have here and how hard they all work, including yourself. My question is more, you sort of answered it, but my question is, in your letter, you talk about your expectation that Nick will stay on through the end of January and you will ease into the interim while we do some of the search processes. Are you comfortable that if the TPA decides on December 16th to elevate you to the interim and allows Nick to leave on December 17th, that if you were wearing the interim director hat and vacating your current position, everything would still be able to get done in a timely fashion while you're kind of elevated out of your spot and you don't have that benefit of the on-ramp of Nick having been here for 6 more weeks? Is that going to be a challenge for you and the staff to continue the level of excellence if we elevated you?
That's a good point. I was thinking through that myself too, and that's why I also put in that letter about having Nick serve out. It would definitely be an easier transition for us, and to have Nick serve out. And the reason I say that too is that extra month is really where I don't have to focus on anything to do with the transition from a new interim position or a new director position, right? So I don't have to do any of those tasks. If Nick were to leave at December 16th, there'll be a little bit more requirements out of me and Margie to handle working with that firm about the job description and sort of seeing at that whole process of hiring a new director. So I would say it would be a little bit of a burden there. I think we would be able to manage it for the next 2 months, but I would really prefer personally that he serve it out until January to handle all of that hiring.
Thank you. Just a question, Nick, can you just let me know, is the position that Ms. Nielsen formerly had, the Deputy Director of Multimodal Development, is that a position that, I know it's open, is there any active search for that position?
When I announced my resignation on November 1st, we decided to put a hold on that so that the selected next executive director would be able to fill that position.
So if you weren't departing, it would have been your, you would have gone forward with replacing that position. It wasn't one that you were going to eliminate or?
But that's correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Again, thank you very much for presenting yourself. We also have your performance review, the benefit of the last 3 reviews that were done October, July, and April. And while the review is pretty good, there's one area that certainly jumps out, and I'll let you discuss it. It's timeliness of assigned tasks, where the rating was not as high as the others. And the comments were alluding to the fact that there was some slippage in assignments. Can you address that?
Yes, I can address that. Most of these tasks that were slipping, I think it's one of those ones where it's really about the follow-up beginning for the timeliness. I think it's making sure that I'm working with the staff enough to make sure that they're staying on schedule with some of these that were sort of not always ones related to our day-to-day tasks, but there's other things that come in, requests and other types of work. And so it was really ensuring that I'm working with my staff to prioritize the ones that need to get done in time. And then so some of them were slipping because of that. So Nick was making sure that when I'm doing this, when there's requests that come out from you all or anybody else, to ensure that I'm following up and I have those aligned into our task schedule manager with teams. And so really it's ones that have been, I guess, one-offs that were slipping through.
In your role as Deputy Director of Program Development, do you have anybody that is that you're supervising?
Yes. The 2 planning staffs are split up between the multimodal director and then the program development director. So I oversee a staff of 3. We have the LRTP, the TIP, and then we have a planner 2 who supports that staff. And then on the transit's multimodal side, there's transit, bikes and pedestrian, and there's also a planner that supports that staff.
And since Ms. Nielsen's departure, have you had to absorb any of those responsibilities for multimodal development?
For multimodal development, A little bit. It's more about, as I said, they really lead those. So Nick is the one who is doing those team meetings with the multimodal staff. So with his departure, that'd be something I would be overtaking. But when it comes to the day-to-day tasks and reviewing all their work, it really depends. Our staff are really involved in a lot of different areas. And so my overview of what I oversee for multimodal is really just review of their process and making sure they're somewhat on time. It's really about the deliverables that I'm overseeing. So, for example, our transit coordinator is James Reinhardt, and he's working with our consultants on the Okeechobee Boulevard corridor studies. So he can send things my way for a review process, but I'm not managing their day-to-day tasks at all.
Very good. Thank you. You want to sum up? You have a minute to make a final statement.
Sure. I've enjoyed working here, and I see myself here long-term into the future. I think you have a tough road ahead of you. I know it's a tough decision that you all have to make here, and I know I trust in your leadership and where you all go with it, and I look forward to working with you all in the future. And I think our staff is going to be feeling the same way, and we're confident wherever you all go with your decisions that we have your back, and we look forward to continuing the vision into the future.
Thank you very much. We again appreciate you putting this forward. Okay, we have one comment from the public. Commissioner Ryan, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
Good morning. It's nice to see you all again. That's former commissioner. I am now a reformed politician, living and spending my days with grandchildren in construction rehab. And I am here today to speak to you as a former member of the TPA governing board, as well as a citizen of West Palm Beach and Palm Beach County. I met the TPA and Nick probably 8, 9, 10 years ago, working as a neighborhood president of my community. His door was open. He shared a process. We were able to walk through that door, complete it. I was elected city commissioner. I was fortunate enough to be on the TPA governing board, participating in different plans. And when the transition from the MPO to the TPA occurred, I was on all of the different committees that were set up to help shepherd this process through. I think that what you have in Nick is somebody who fully understands 360 degrees about infrastructure, transportation, road, dollars, every aspect of that. But more importantly, what he understands is how to put an organization together. And he worked with leaders of the TPA to come up with the process, which includes a succession plan. And that succession plan is to move the organization forward to the future, to the long term, with the governing board, which you guys are members of and guide, that represent both city and county. And I think that it's important that we continue to have that kind of leadership. And I support that we go out for the executive search, because as a developer, I have developed in communities all over the country. And it's really important to have the right leadership, and you have the opportunity to see who's out there and who comes forward. And in Nick's succession plan, he has recommended somebody internally to step forward and move in that process. I recommend that you follow your executive director. He's an outstanding professional, and he put together a succession plan with members of the TPA, different committees, and he's asking you to support him. And I'm here to support him, to support you, to support him. You're going to go out for a national search. You have some excellent people here in the room. They are more than welcome, obviously, to apply should they decide that they want to do that. But more importantly, if you're going to pick locally and just bring somebody in at this juncture, there are others that you could consider, but we could open up this process and go on for a much longer time period. And so I'm here to support the TPAs moving forward with an executive search and to follow your executive director's succession plan.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
comments.
Good to see you.
I compliment you on keeping the 3 minutes even without a clock in front of you. All right, we're going to close public comment. I think we are at a point now where I'm going to review what was the charge from the board for this meeting today. we were asked to evaluate the 4 recruitment firms who have submitted a proposal to the TPA to administer the process of selecting a new executive director and recommend execution of a contract with one of those firms, and evaluate potential interim director candidates and recommend an individual to serve as interim director during the period of time between the effective resignation of the current executive director and the appointment of a new executive director. With your permission, I'm going to make a couple of comments. I think we're very fortunate in that we have 3 very strong candidates in front of us. I think we are in an enviable position to have the opportunity to pick from a former member of the staff as a potential interim or full-time, a member of our current staff as an interim, and a member of our sister TPO just north of here as a permanent. So I think we have a lot of opportunity in front of us. So I guess the first question is, do we feel that it is necessary to go to an executive search firm?
Yes. Continue.
All right, so,
Yes.
okay, I'm going to see a strong consensus for an executive search firm being engaged. So now I guess the point we need to do is take a look at what has been presented to us for the 4 executive search firms that are in front of us. I believe Margie gave each of us the comparison of recruitment firms, which shows the 4 that were presented at the board meeting: GovHR, Mercer Group, SGR, and Slavin Management. Is there anybody who wants to discuss what's here? Does anybody want to make a motion to engage any of these 4?
Just a quick,
Go ahead.
oh, sorry. I
I'm
have
going to
to,
ask that you start putting up cards just so I can start figuring out what's going on.
I have to leave at 11:15, so I'm going to give you my my suggestions and my observations. I would like to see Andrew Euler put in as executive director, interim executive director, and that we do a nationwide search. I would encourage Valerie and, pardon me, Peter to put their name in the hat in that process. As it doesn't change our budget by having, and I'm not doing this because of money, but we don't now have to bring in another executive director, interim executive director, and pay an additional fee if we do that. If we keep it just the way it is, we don't have any additional cost other than the search firm. Am I correct? Okay. So as for the search firms, I went through the process. I did my own cheat sheet on all of them. And my only concern about SGR, and actually from my perspective, I like them. I didn't like the 15 weeks. And I don't know if that can be made any shorter in their proposal, but I think 15 weeks might be a lot of time when Slavin comes in with 7 weeks, Mercer is 12 weeks, and GovHR is 13 to 14 weeks. So the prices are about plus or minus about the same. They do additional travel expenses, but at the end of the day, it all works out relatively similar. I know, Margie, you have travel costs here, plus minus travel costs, but didn't some of these have a cap on what they would charge?
Yes, and then some of them did say that if we need to adjust the scope a bit, that it can be more à la carte versus an all-in process.
Okay, so from that standpoint, then I think I don't think we should be, cost is a factor, but not the factor on this. I do also see that, local offices, there are offices in Lakeland, Daytona, Ponce Inlet. I didn't see a local office for Slavin, but I do like the idea that they did recruit the Metro Plan Orlando director. So I think you have 4 good agencies. It's going to be hard to pick one, and that's my opinion. Thank you. Which means I didn't pick a company.
I did notice that. Vice Mayor?
Oh, great. I want to, which one?
I'm not a vice
Okay,
mayor.
okay, you're not, well,
Not at the moment.
not at the moment. Commissioner Marino, I want to clarify. So you're saying that your recommendation would be for Nick to step down now and for Andrew to step in, or for Nick to serve until January 28th is planned?
Well, I think that would be up to Nick, quite frankly.
Okay, because if we have Andrew stepping in now and then Nick leaving as planned on January 28th, we would still be responsible for his salary, even if he wasn't physically here as director anymore by his contract. Is that correct?
Whether he
Budget.
stays through the end of his 90 days or is
Right.
terminated in December, I think we still pay you through the end of January, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So that is not a financial impact. The financial burden to us would be if we do hire an interim executive director.
Right,
That
right.
would be our financial,
Right,
our
but I-
additional financial burden.
I would like Nick to stay on until January 28th is what I would like. to
I would too,
clarify.
because
Okay.
then the definition of what the role is something that Nick and Andrew are doing together. And then Andrew knows that going forward, but also any company we hire has a truer definition of what
Agreed.
the role
Okay.
is, and they don't have to do it.
Good. I just wanted to clarify that that included Nick staying until the 28th before I went forward. Let's see, I'd like to recommend that we go with the Slavin Management Consultants. Mr. Slavin himself actually would be handling it. And they have a lot more experience in transportation. I did like government HR or GovHR's social media support and how much they support the executive committee in making the decisions. And then Slavin guarantees this position for 24 months. I don't know if that's good or bad. If we don't like the person and we're stuck with them for 2 years, I don't know if that's a great thing either. However, the Metro Plan Orlando, I did a deep dive into that. It went very well with Slavin, and they actually wound up bringing in their deputy executive director as executive director in the end. So they brought from within. And then also Vice Mayor of the county, Weiss, had recommended Slavin as well. And a lot of it makes sense. And what the other thing I liked about Slavin was they also did, I ran out of my note page, that they did also talk about the diversity of the folks that they had been putting into office as well. So that was, in my opinion, something really honorable to include.
Thank you.
I agree with Vice Mayor's comment on Slavin. They are my preference. They all seem very well qualified. The costs are about the same. I think Slavin has a little more experience in this type of a hire, and I do like the 2-year guarantee versus the 1 and 1.5 years. So that way, if it doesn't work out, they will do the search for us again without additional fee. The cost will be there. As far as an interim director, and again, I appreciate Mr. Buckwall coming down from Port St. Lucie and the other 2 applicants. I do think we need a national, we all do, I think, need a national search for this job, which is why I would not be inclined to take Mr. Buckwald from his current job to put him in an interim position. I'd like him to apply for the full-time job. I think Ms. Nielsen has expressed an interest that she would like the interim position, knowing that she would only be an applicant for the full-time position. I also my preference would be for Nick to leave early if he so chooses, because I think it frees Nick up to go on to the rest of his life and not be stuck here. And my only concern with elevating Andrew would be stretching everything too thin, because then he would have additional duties on top of his current duties. We're already down 1 executive director. So my preference would be for hire Slavin and bring on Ms. Nielsen as the interim director, with the express understanding there are no express or implied promises that she has the inside track to executive director, but she will be the interim, and then she will have a chance to apply with everyone else for that role. And if she gets it, she gets it. That's my preference.
Thank you. Mayor?
So I definitely like Slavin. I think I made a motion at the last meeting to move forward Slavin. So I think that's probably the firm that I would like to see head up the search. And in regards to how we move forward in the short term, I think I want to see Valerie be the interim. I'm looking at 2. I think, sometimes we got to look at the black and white. I'm looking at 2 quarterly performance here who speak volume in my eyes. I think one person is ready to hit the ground running. I think one person is very well-rounded person to move us forward through the search. Andrew, I appreciate your honesty. I'm going to be selfish right now about the organization that we're we've been tasked to move forward with. And I think Valerie is the right person to be the interim. And then we move forward with an executive search. So I'm
Okay,
almost ready to make a motion, but I know we're on the search committee. So I make a motion that we move forward with hiring Slavin for the executive search.
all right. I'm going to accept that motion. I have a second by Commissioner Marino. Let me make a couple of comments. I'm in a minority here. I would probably have not seen a necessity for a recruitment firm, but I certainly see that we have a consensus to go in that direction. So I will go with the majority, and I think Slavin will be the one that we will select. As to the interim position, I'm really concerned that we are really thinning the ranks here if we draw Andrew into a role of acting as the interim. He's already having some issues with program development. We have an opening that's been put on hold right now for the multimodal since Valerie's departure. So I think it would really be difficult to move him into that role and further handicap the agency. Nick, I'm going to ask you a question, and if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. I have no question in my mind that you will be fully engaged and give us your full energy until the end of your contract. However, if you were released from your obligations as of the next meeting, if the board made that decision, would that be something that you would find to be favorable to your future? Or are you looking to finish out your contract and put a nice bow on your executive directorship here?
I think it's fun that you continue to ask me this question. My contract, which I signed and which I'm committed to abiding by, says that if I voluntarily resign before the expiration of the term of the agreement, I'm to provide you with a 90-day notice of resignation. And then upon that notice, you may, at your option, require me to terminate employment at an earlier date. So while I appreciate you're asking me, would it be good for me? It's really your call.
And I understand that. And if you don't want to go any further than that, that's fine. I'm just trying to do what is right for the agency and also what would work for you best. But if that's your answer, that's fine.
Well, and I'll expand on that briefly. But my recommendation to the governing board in November was to hire a search firm, because I recognized, as Commissioner Marino pointed out, that there's time involved in doing a national search and identifying candidates, reviewing those candidates, appointing a candidate, and then bringing them on board. I mean, there's a transitional time frame for whoever is selected in that process. And so my recommendation to the governing board was hire the search firm in November to begin that time frame, so that there would be a minimal amount of overlap and so that Andrew could carry the ball for the short amount of time that would exist between the end of January and the appointment of a new executive director. I think it would be very reasonable to have the individuals who have expressed interest in this position apply through that process. I think that makes a great deal of sense for the agency. Now we're in the unfortunate position of having to have the discussion in December and not being able to act on a contract with a search firm until December 16th. But so that forestalls the commencement of the time frame of selection, and it makes the transitional period potentially a little bit longer. That being said, what my recommendation to you was to designate Andrew, and I would help him be prepared to carry that responsibility through the transitional period. It will be best for the agency if you do it that way. I firmly believe that. It will be best for the agency if you designate Andrew as the interim and allow for any candidates for the permanent position to be filtered through the national search process. And if you give me until January 28th, I will ensure that he is adequately prepared to perform all of those responsibilities through that transitional period. So I guess that's my
Okay.
my more thorough response is I continue to recommend to you and believe that it is best for the agency that you designate Andrew to be interim director in the transitional period, you hire a search firm, and you select the best candidate from that process to lead this agency going forward.
In the alternative, if this body recommended that Ms. Nielsen be the interim, would you feel that you could work in the same fashion up through January 28th to facilitate that transition?
I guess I'm going to look to Paul to ask, can you give me some legal clarification on what scenario Mayor Weinroth is proposing, where they would hire an interim director that is not a TPA employee, and then somehow ask me to continue to work in a capacity not as executive director during a transitional period? It sounds like they might be asking if they can hire a subordinate, and I'm not certain what your proposal is.
Well, I haven't fleshed it out. I'm just trying to
Sure.
figure out what the alternatives are before this body. Okay,
I
anybody
mean, I
else
think it's
have-
important for the board to recognize that Ms. Nielsen's not an employee of the TPA. And so bringing her on as interim director would mean terminating my agreement.
Okay. We have a motion before us right now to engage the firm of Slavin Management to do a recruitment for the position of executive director. That has been made by, I think, Mayor Flores, seconded by Commissioner Marino. Is there any further discussion?
I think
Yes.
technically it's a recommendation that we hire them, not a motion to hire them.
Right, okay, a motion to recommend to the TPA board that we hire the firm of Slavin Management. Okay, Vice Mayor?
Just to say, I think this is the most fair, professional, and transparent, accurate way to go forward, because there's public perception, there are legal issues, and we do have wonderful candidates here today who will rise to the top during this search. But I would like to do it in an above board manner, no matter what.
Okay, that being said, I'm going to ask for a vote. Well, let's do it by roll call.
Yes, sir. Joel Flores, Maria Marino,
Yes.
Michael Napoleon,
Yes.
Chelsea Reed,
Yes.
Robert Weinroth.
Yes.
It passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
All right. Is there a motion with respect to interim?
Well, again, listening to what Nick said, I do recommend that we put Andrew Euler in as interim executive director. It would give Nick and Andrew the time right now to work together to get it done. And that would be my motion.
That's your motion?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion is to recommend Andrew as the interim through the termination of Nick's engagement with the
Why is everyone staring at me?
agency.
Oh, it's been on.
All right, so we have a second by Councilman Napoleon. Any
Didn't second
discussion?
anything. I just turned my microphone off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You were staring at me as if I was seconding something.
Okay. Who do I have for a second? Do I have a second? I'm not seeing a second. All right, do I have another motion?
I'll make a motion that we recommend Valerie Nielsen for the interim position.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend Valerie as the interim.
I'll second that.
I have a second. Discussion. Yes,
So if we bring in Valerie, we lose Nick.
Immediately.
by definition, if we bring in Valerie, then Nick is terminated.
I would like a perfect world where they could both work together again, please. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to call a question, or Mayor, you have the final word.
I get, at the end of the day, we're making a recommendation to the board, and the board ultimately will make that final decision. And I just want to clarify a few points about my motion. Nick, I don't really want to see you leave. Unfortunately, we have to pick on who's going to steer the ship until we find the person that's going to replace you. Based on performance reviews that I see here in front of me, which I believe you were the one that conducted am I correct about that? So you say one thing, but yeah, on black and white, I see something else, and it's just a hard decision. on which way do we go. I don't know what happened between when Valerie left and when Valerie came back, but obviously it seems like it's a different story now. And I think with Valerie at the helm during this, brief moment, I think she will be able to carry on the leadership role here with the board, as well as have staff concentrate on moving the organization forward. So that's why I'm making this motion.
All right.
I do have one quick question.
Sure.
Nick, will you be in person or will you be working remote for the remainder of your time on the TPA?
I've been working mostly remote, but some days I've been here in person as I'm able to be. And I would continue in that capacity for
Okay, thank
whatever
you.
duration of time that I'm continued to be requested to provide that service.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a roll call on the motion. The motion is to engage Ms. Nielsen in the role of interim. That's the recommendation to the full board at its next meeting.
The only question I have is if this motion passes, when do you view Valerie as taking over? Because there seems to be some discussion here that you want Nick to continue for the balance of his 90 days.
I think Nick has made it clear that if Valerie is engaged, that he's going to be leaving, be out of just, there can't be two directors.
Well, it's true that, and that's why I'm asking the question is that there can't be two directors. So
I think the full board is going to have to deal with that. I think we'll make our recommendation if that's the vote. I know that Commissioner Marino is trying to get out of here, so I'm going to call the question.
I'm sorry, my notes are all over the place. So I had a motion by Mayor Flores and a second by Councilman Napoleon. Joel Flores. Maria Marino. I'm sorry, do you mind turning your mic?
Yes, because this is a recommendation to our board, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Michael Napoleon,
Yes.
Chelsea Reed,
Yes.
Robert Weinroth.
Yes.
It passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I believe we have undertaken the task that was given to us by the full board. As a result, I am going to, unless there's any public comment at this point, I will allow you. Go away. On that note, we are adjourned.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, just really quick. So since you dispatched with this meeting, there's no need for the December 8th.
There will not be a second meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time.